My wife demanded I sell my late mother's house to fund her startup. I refused, and she made a move I never saw coming. The moment Claire Whitmore said, "Sell the house," everything in Ethan Caldwell's chest went still. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He just stood there in the kitchen of their pristine Scottsdale home, staring at his wife like she had just spoken a foreign language. "Excuse me," he asked quietly. Claire didn't hesitate. Her tone was sharp, controlled, almost rehearsed. "I need capital, Ethan. This startup isn't going to fund itself." He let out a slow breath, trying to understand what he was hearing. "The house," he repeated. "My mother's house?" Claire folded her arms, her posture straight and unyielding. "It's just sitting there. You're not even living in it. It's an asset." Ethan's jaw tightened. "It's not just an asset." Silence stretched between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Claire's eyes narrowed slightly, as if she was already irritated by his resistance. "You're being emotional," she said. That word landed harder than anything else she had said. Emotional. The house wasn't just wooden walls. It was where his mother, Margaret Caldwell, had raised him alone after his father died. It was where she had worked double shifts, came home exhausted, and still made sure he never felt the weight of her struggles. It was where she had sat on the porch every evening, telling him that no matter how hard life got, he would always have a place to return to. And now Claire was asking him to erase that. "I'm not selling it," Ethan said firmly. Claire's lips pressed into a thin line. "Then you're choosing nostalgia over our future. Let me ask you something. If someone asked you to sell the last piece of your parents' legacy, would you even hesitate? Or would you protect it, no matter the cost?" Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration beginning to rise. "This isn't about nostalgia. It's about respect." Claire laughed softly, but there was no warmth in it. "Respect doesn't pay investors." "That house is paid off," Ethan shot back. "It's security. It's dead money," Claire replied instantly. The conversation wasn't a conversation anymore. It was a collision. Ethan could feel it shifting into something deeper, something dangerous. "I've already put together a plan," Claire continued, walking over to the marble counter and grabbing a sleek folder. "Projected returns, investor breakdown, growth trajectory." He didn't touch the folder. I said no. Claire's eyes flickered with something, annoyance, maybe something sharper. "You didn't even look at it." "I don't need to." Her voice dropped. "You don't believe in me." That wasn't fair, and they both knew it. Ethan exhaled slowly. "This isn't about belief. This is about boundaries." Claire stepped closer, her heels clicking against the floor. "We're married, Ethan. There are no boundaries like that." He stared at her. "Yes, there are." That was the first crack. For the next few days, the tension in the house became something you could feel without seeing. Short replies, missed eye contact, dinners eaten in silence. Claire stopped bringing up the house directly. But she didn't stop. She just changed her approach. She started talking about sacrifice, about partnership, about how real couples invest in each other. Ethan listened, but he didn't move. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the desert horizon, he drove out to his mother's house. The place hadn't changed. Same white porch, same wind chimes that clinked softly in the breeze. He stood there for a moment before stepping inside. Everything felt smaller than he remembered, but somehow heavier. He walked into the living room, his fingers brushing the old wooden table his mother had refused to replace, no matter how worn it got. And then he saw it, a document sitting neatly on the table, his name on it. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. Ethan frowned and picked it up. His heart dropped as he read the first line. Notice of intent to sell property. His breath caught. No, that didn't make sense. He flipped through the pages quickly, his hands tightening. The authorization section was signed. Not by him, by Claire Whitmore. Everything inside him went cold. That was the moment everything changed. The argument wasn't about money anymore. It was about trust. Ethan drove home that night faster than he should have. His grip on the steering wheel was tight, his mind racing through possibilities, explanations, excuses. None of them made sense. When he walked into the house, Claire was sitting on the couch, calm, composed, scrolling through her tablet. She looked up like nothing was wrong. "You're back early," she said. Ethan held up the document. "What is this?" Her expression didn't change immediately, and that was the problem. Then she sighed, like she was tired of explaining something obvious. "I was going to tell you." "When?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "When it was finalized." Ethan stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. "You forged my consent?" "I didn't forge anything," Claire replied coolly. "As your spouse, I have certain legal access. That doesn't give you the right to sell my inheritance. It gives me the ability to act in our best interest." "Our?" He almost laughed. "This isn't our, Claire. This is you." She stood up now, finally meeting his intensity. "You're being dramatic." "No," he said. "I'm being clear." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. "You went behind my back," he continued. "You made a decision that wasn't yours to make." Claire's composure cracked just slightly. "I did what needed to be done." "For what?" "For us," she insisted. "For our future." Ethan shook his head slowly. "No." There was a long pause, and then he said it. "You didn't do this for us. You did this because you couldn't accept no." That hit her. You could see it. For the first time, Claire looked uncertain, but it passed quickly. "You'll thank me later," she said. That was it. That was the moment Ethan realized something deeper than the house was at risk. It wasn't just about property. It was about control. The next morning, Ethan made a call, then another, then 3 more. By noon, he had a lawyer, Daniel Prescott, reviewing every document Claire had signed. And what they found changed everything again. The signature wasn't just unauthorized. It was illegal. Claire didn't have the legal right to initiate that sale. Not even close. Which meant one thing. She had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. That afternoon, Ethan returned home with a clarity he hadn't felt in days. Claire was in the kitchen again. Same place where it all started. "Did you fix it?" she asked casually, not even looking up. Ethan placed a folder on the counter. "No," he said calmly. "I ended it." She looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" He met her eyes, steady and unwavering. "I filed to stop the sale. And I filed something else." Her expression shifted. "Ethan, I filed for separation." Silence. Real silence. The kind that settles deep into your bones. Claire stared at him like she didn't recognize him anymore. "You're overreacting," she whispered. "No," he said. "I'm finally reacting." She stepped closer, panic beginning to surface beneath her composed exterior. "It's just a house." Ethan shook his head. "No, it was never just a house." He paused, letting the words settle. "It was the one thing in my life that reminded me who I am." Claire's eyes softened for a brief moment, but it was too late. Some lines, once crossed, don't fade. They define everything that comes after. If you were in Ethan's place, would you have forgiven her? Or would you have walked away the moment trust was broken? Ethan didn't wait for an answer. He had already made his. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like peace. What's your personal reflection? Would you stay in a relationship where your partner made a major life decision behind your back? Or would that be the end for you?